Hello everyone, this is Ashwin again. How is it going? In this video tutorial, we are going to understand what command line arguments are and how to use them in Python 3 programming. So till now we have been executing our programs using IDE. So let's take an example of execution of a program using IDE just for revision. So let's open IDE 3. Let's open a code file. So let's open and let's go to our code base. So now this is a sample program for docstrings, a multi-line docstring program. So if I want to run it, I just click run and then I say run module. Okay, so the module runs. So this is how we launch program using IDE. But as few of you might already know that there is other way of launching the same program. So we just need to go to command prompt and we can browse to our directory where the code is lying, and okay, so the name of the code file was, I guess, prog06. So let's run this module using command line. So for that we need to run it using the command Python prog06.py. So this is the command that we are going to use to run this module. So let's copy and paste this command on the command prompt. So mind you, if you are using Python 3 on Windows operating system and you don't have any other version of Python installed, then you can just run this thing with Python and prog06.py. But in case of in case you are using Mac OS or any Linux distribution, you just need to type Python 3 and then the name of the program to run the stuff using a Python 3 interpreter. I guess there is a separate video that I have created long ago earlier on this. So you can refer to that video, that how to the differences between Python and Python 3 interpreters. So as of now we are using Windows, so we are going to use this command Python space prog06.py. Let's copy this command and paste it in the command prompt. Okay, so the command has been pasted in the command prompt. So for the sake of clarity, let me add some spaces. So the white spaces are not gonna make any difference. So this is the command. Let me highlight it for you. This is the command that we are going to execute on the command prompt. So when I press enter, the command will be executed and it will launch the module prog06 with Python 3 interpreter, and it is gonna execute the program and it is gonna show the output on the screen. Okay, so now see, this is the output in the command prompt. So now this is the output in the shell. So both the outputs are same essentially. It just doesn't say restart and the name of the file, but output is always going to be the same. So the only difference is that it is running in the OS shell or the command prompt, and this one is running in the Python shell. So this is how we launch the programs manually from the command line in for Python 3 or any other scripting language which supports execution from the command prompt. So let's see what command line parameters are or command line arguments are. So as of now I am providing no explicit command line argument to this program. So suppose if I mention something like 0 or my name Ashwin or test or some float like 3.14. So these arguments are known as command line arguments. Okay, so we can specify these arguments while executing the program, and we can do this only when we are running it using the command prompt of the operating system. So let's paste these things here. So let me, okay, and if I say execute. So still it is not going to make any difference, because for these arguments we we have provided the arguments to our program, but we haven't actually got any sort of provision in the program, in the code, to handle these arguments. These arguments have to be handled with special facility in the code, a special sort of coding. We are going to learn that in a moment, but just first understand what the concept of command line arguments are. So this is so whenever we are going to run anything on the command line, so the name of that particular program is going to be the 0th argument. So in this case, the argument number 0 is prog06.py, argument number 1 is 0, argument number 2 is Ashwin, argument number 3 is test, and argument number 4 is 3.14. So now this is how the command line arguments are given. So whenever you are going to consider the command line arguments for prog06, that is the order. So if you are going to consider the command line arguments for the executable binary of Python itself, so for that Python is the argument number 0, prog06 is the argument number 1, and so on. So as of now we are considering only the command line arguments only for our program. So this is how we provide the command line arguments to our program. Now there are many IDEs which allow us to configure which actually allow us to set the run configuration, where we can specify the command line arguments. So I guess in this in case of ideally we cannot specify the command line arguments, I'm not quite sure about it. So whenever I want to use command line arguments with any Python program, I just invoke that program from the command prompt of that particular operating system. So if I'm using Linux, I use something like terminal, and if I'm using Windows, I just use a CMD. So this is how this is what the concept of command line is. So as I already told you, in the case of our program prog06.py, the name of the file itself, name of the Python file itself is the 0th argument. The first argument is 0, second argument is Ashwin, the third argument is test, fourth argument is 3.14, which is nothing but the value of pi, an important mathematical number. So let's now see how to handle the command line arguments in our code. So just go to the file, click new file. Let's save that new file into a location, just say save as, and let's say prog07. Okay, so this one has been saved as prog07.py. Let's close the other windows. So now in order to handle the command line arguments, I just need to import a package, a built-in package of Python. It's known as sys. Okay, so let's say I'm port sys. Okay, so sys has got a special variable known as argv. Okay, so let's say print command line arguments are comma str of sys.argv. Okay, so now let's try to run this program directly from the IDLE. Okay, so when I say run, and if I say run module, okay, so it's gonna the first thing it's gonna just print the name of the file itself. Okay, so as I have already told you that if we are going to run the program from the IDLE itself, there is no way we can specify the command line argument, but it takes the name of the file by default as a default argument. Okay, so now the command line arguments are the name of the file, as of now the name of the file itself. So now let's try to see the length of the file. Okay, print say length of command line arguments, length th. Okay, and just say len of sys.argv. Okay, so it's probably gonna say 1. Okay, so let's run this module. Okay, so length is 1. Okay, so now there is only one member that has been passed as the command line argument. That is nothing but the name of the file as we have predicted. So we can launch this program from the let's see if that file appears in our command prompt. Yeah, so here the file is, and let's now run this program from the command prompt and see the output of the same. Because see, essentially when we run the program from the IDLE itself, there is no way we can no way we can mention the command line arguments or the command line parameters, okay, to pass to these things. So now, so whenever I'm gonna run this program with the command line itself, I can specify the parameters. So say PROG07 is by default the 0th argument, and rest of the arguments that we have already discussed are mentioned here. So let's copy and paste it in the command line. So for the sake of convenience, I'm gonna get started with a new line and gonna run this command here. Okay, so now you see the command line arguments are prog07.py. okay, that is the name of the file. Okay, and the first argument is then the 0th argument is the name of the file, first argument is 0, and so on. The length of that the length of the argument or the length of this list is 5, correct? So this is how we can use the command line arguments in our code. So suppose if you want to so this is actually very useful in the cases where you need to write some small the code for write the code for some small command line utilities using the Python. Okay, so there you can write the code, and then you can have some sort of like parameters into while launching the program from the shell, and then you can parse those command line arguments, and then you can perform the various operations on that. So for an example, I can just say Python prog07.py and -h. So -h usually minus is the command line parameter, which usually stands for the help option. So now, as we know now that how to catch and use these parameters, we can now parse them using the program. Okay, so now we can just like write a code which has got the condition like if the first parameter of your script is -h, then you can just like display the associated help with your code. So now we can even say for the args in sys.argv. okay, just say print args, or just like say an argument. Okay, so because it's going to be a singular, so grammatically it should be correct. So so now this is the only thing. Okay, so now this is how we parse it one by one. So now let's try to run the program on the shell. Let's launch it in Python shell with IDLE like this. Okay, so now it's gonna display all the command line arguments one by one. So as of now there is only one default argument, so it has shown it separately. So now again let's run this thing on the OS shell or the CMD. Okay, so now it's gonna, so earlier it was showing the list in a single go. So we haven't actually deleted that statement, we have just added an extra statement which is gonna show it like one by one, because print has got an implicit new line character at the so whenever it prints something, it will automatically forward it to the next line. So let's run the code, okay, from the command line, and let's see what happens. So as we have guessed, it shows the list of the command line arguments, and then we are iterating through that list in a Pythonic way. So it shows the 0th argument and the first and the second argument and so on. So this is how we use actually the command line arguments in Python 3. So our code is a bit disorganized. Let's write it in a bit more Pythonic way if you don't mind. So let's now run this. So let's now organize it in a bit more Pythonic way. So usually we have a main function. So let's say def main, and as of now let's keep it empty, pass. Okay, and then let's say if our usual stuff, name equals to main underscore underscore main underscore underscore, and let's now handle the stuff. Let's now handle the command line arguments. So for that we need to handle the command line arguments in such a way that we should be able to, because usually the flow begins from here, right? So whenever our Python interpreter scans any file, it will actually first come here, because this is not the part of any code block. Okay, this is not the part of like any programming construct like a function or a class. So the program execution will start from here. So we need to actually handle the command line arguments here itself. So for that we can then just specify something like we can just call the main function. So just say main and just pass sys.argv. So how does it sound? Because we are passing just like command line argument, the command line arguments to the main function of our program. So just we can just like catch them using the parameters here. Just say args arguments, and then we can then use them here. We are just going to have a simple loop, say for arg in args print arg. So as of now we are not going to do anything much with these, and we are just going to try to organize everything in a bit more Pythonic way, and it seems quite okay. So let's save the program. Let's launch the program on sorry, it seems that I have closed the file. Let me open the file. Just ideally. Okay, file, open module, sorry, file open. So let's again browse through the code base, Python topics. Okay, so this is our code. Sorry for that. So this is our code. Okay, so now this is the code, and let's try to run the code with the IDLE itself. When I just say run module, it is as expected. It's gonna print the name of the first or the 0th command line argument, which is nothing but the name of the file itself. Again, let's launch it from the command line and just a copy, and let's go to the next line for the sake of simplicity and just press enter. Yeah, so now we can, as you can see, it is printing the name of all the command line arguments one by one in order. Okay, so now let's even improve this program. We can even improve this program. So we are anyway importing sys. So usually whenever in any operating system, whenever any program terminates, its status, it returns a status to the operating system shell. So we can just say sys.exit, okay, of exit, okay, and something like that. And for that to happen, we need to return the status, return 0. So now this is how it is returning the stuff. So it says sys.exit. Now when the def, so now this is .exit is catching the return, whatever value is returned by main function. Okay, so and the main is returning 0. So sys.exit of 0. So when there is exit status is 0, then it means that the program completed the execution successfully. So this is how we can, I mean, this is a very bare bone structure of your command line utility. So here you can even have like here in this block you can even have if else statement, and you can actually return the stuff return 0 or 1 based on the proper execution of your program. So if your program, if you wanna the return status or the execution status to be successful, and you want that the success status to be returned to the OS shell, you can just like say here return 0. And if you want to say that there is something wrong with your execution, then you can just say return 1. And this is aspires.exit is gonna exit the entire execution of the program with the status 1, which will be returned to your operating system shell, and then you can actually do further whatever you want to do with that status in your shell. So this is how we can actually use the command line arguments in Python 3. This is very simple and bare-bones example for a command line utility. Now you can do a lot of stuff with this utility and like write a lot of stuff on the top of this basic skeleton. So thanks a lot for watching this video tutorial. Please do not forget to subscribe to my channel for more exciting videos on Python 3. Thanks a lot.